What actually care does here in Bangladesh?
You see, the kind of journey of care in Bangladesh is very much linked to that. So we started with life saving,
What actually care does with the youth?
providing them the skills and knowledge which the market requires.
What is your observation? Why is poverty is rising and inequality is rising in Bangladesh?
The poverty comes back because we are not linking the systems, not creating a resilient system which can withstand social inequality, which is so deep that it's very difficult to kind of change.
So what is care doing in climate adaptation?
We have been doing a lot around climate change and adaptation. Bangladesh has been a pioneer or a leader in this space of climate adaptation.
What about the Rohingya refugees? What Bangladesh should do to handle these issues?
What is important for us is we need stronger diplomatic engagement, much more strong regional cooperation, and long-term thinking.
Has care cut any jobs or any program has been cancelled because of USAID fund cut?
Yes.
So how care is surviving?
Though USAID is shut, but US government as an entity is still providing support across the globe in very many ways.
প্রিয় দর্শক, বাংলাদেশ ফাইন্যান্স প্রেজেন্টস টিভিএস ইকোনমিতে আপনাদের সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি। আমি সাজ্জাদুর রহমান। দর্শক, আমরা এই প্রোগ্রামে বাংলাদেশের ইকোনমি নিয়ে আলোচনা করি। মূলত এখানে আমরা ইকোনমিস্টদের সাথে বেশিরভাগ আলোচনা করি, বাট আজকে আমরা আলোচনা করব কেয়ার বাংলাদেশের কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টর মিস্টার রাম দাস। কেয়ার বাংলাদেশের কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টরকে এই প্রোগ্রামে আমাদের আনার উদ্দেশ্য হচ্ছে যে কেয়ার আসলে বাংলাদেশের ইকোনমি নিয়েই কাজ করে থাকে, বাংলাদেশের মার্জিনাল পিপল নিয়ে কাজ করে থাকে, উইমেন এম্পাওয়ারমেন্ট নিয়ে তাদের অনেক কাজ আছে। দেন হিউম্যানিটেরিয়ান অ্যাঙ্গেলে ডিজাস্টার ম্যানেজমেন্ট, সো অনেক কিছুতে কেয়ারের এই ইনভলভমেন্টটা আছে এবং দ্যাট ইজ হোয়াই আমরা আজকে কেয়ার বাংলাদেশের কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টর তাকে ইনভাইট করেছি এবং আমরা আলোচনা করব আসলে বাংলাদেশের কেয়ার কী করে এবং বাংলাদেশের ওভারঅল পরিস্থিতি, ইকোনমিক সিচুয়েশন, পভার্টি, ইনইকুয়ালিটি, এই সমস্ত বিষয় নিয়ে আলোচনা করব এবং আপনাদের সঙ্গে শেয়ার করব। সো মিস্টার রামদাস, ভেরি ওয়ার্ম ওয়েলকাম টু টিভিএস।
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining TVS. So let us begin with CARE is present here in Bangladesh for over 75 years. So what actually CARE does here in Bangladesh? Just very briefly, major key points.
CARE started its journey in this part of the world in 1949. So if you calculate that way, we will be completing 77 years
Running, right?
This year, end of this year. So CARE's journey in Bangladesh is very much kind of linked to CARE's journey globally as well. So post World War II in 1945, after the Second World War, most of the Europe was devastated. CARE first started its journey operations by providing life-saving food support. Similarly, if you see the kind of journey of CARE in Bangladesh, it's very much linked to that. So we started with life-saving food assistance, then we might be recollecting the support to school children, the nutritious food, the milk powder and all that. So, and slowly from food assistance to vulnerable population, we moved more into healthcare and health assistance because we saw that healthcare was an issue in the country. Slowly as the organization moved forward, we realized that food security, the livelihoods of people is very important for economic security as well as for social security. So much of our journey actually went into ensuring livelihoods of the large number of people across the country. There was a time when we realized that it's important for people's rights to be kind of talked about. People have a right to food, right to health. So empowering people to have a say or decision about their own lives. So empowering communities around their rights, which they need to demand of the government. So there was a transition towards that as well. Slowly we we moved into contemporary issues of women's issues of empowerment, about youth issues of the need for skilling, for need for linking youth skills to job opportunities, addressing the global issues of climate change, and so on and so forth. We got into so currently if you see, most of our efforts are around climate change, climate adaptation, and also working with the youth and making sure that the youth are adequately skilled so that they are linked to employment and opportunities around. And important is that working with the system so that we make system level changes. Gone are the days where we just do service delivery or provide a food item or some kind of relief item. We are working more towards making changes at the structure at the systems level, so which the gains of our effort can be sustained over a period of time.
Okay.
So it's been a long journey, but absolutely a very fruitful kind of a journey for CARE.
So over the years, CARE has emerged from livelihood support or food support to youth skill and empowerment. So what actually CARE does with the youth and the skill? So does CARE give them the training or
Yes.
what?
So we started this program when we talked about when we started about our major focus is women and girls especially. So when we talked about women and girls, we realized that we should talk more broadly in terms of youth, which means both men and women.
Right.
So we realized that a large chunk of the population in this country are youth. If you see the what we call the youth bulge, next 10 years is very critical because there'll be large number of majority of the youth will be actually in that during this phase. So it's very important for a country, for a nation, to work with the youth because they are the future of your country.
Yes.
So what we are doing with the youth is we are working with youth who are not in education or not in employment or not in training. So providing them adequate skills, so basically skilling them, those are reskilling them and upskilling them. And so basically providing them the skills and knowledge which the market requires, which the time requires, so that they are not just passing exams and sitting idle. So they're passing exams with certain skills, so that they
have demand in the job market.
There's a demand in the job market for their skills. So making something which is the market, there's a market demand for certain skills. So we are doing a lot of activities around that in the past.
So how do you provide them training? CARE has any training center in Dhaka or Bangladesh?
We don't have a training center as such, but we have programs and projects which provides that. We work with large number of partners. We we work with large number of technical institutions also, so which provide youth with the required skills. And if I can just mention one more thing around youth, you see large number of women are working the ready-made garment sector.
Yes.
So we provide through our engagement with the RMG sector, we provide a lot of training to the women workers. So who are basically doing the factory level kind of work. They're providing life skills, leadership skills. So what happens is they go on and get promoted to supervisory level, even leadership level.
Okay.
So we are working on a large number of ready-made garment factories as well, and providing these skills, life skills and others, leadership skills to women. And there are evidences of those women actually getting to much more senior leadership roles.
There are success stories also.
There are success stories also.
Very interesting. So CARE has raised 5.3 million people last year. How do you measure actually real lasting change beyond these numbers? I mean, how do you do the impact assessment?
See, 5.3 reach, when we say it's the number of people touched by our activities or projects. And but if I may say so, that the real measure, the real measure for what is the kind of impact or change we actually, it happens in the lives of the people. So sometimes when we say that we have reached so many people, so it is basically to measure the scale, that how many people we have reached, but often it is not equal to impact. So
Okay.
impact may be different. So
Right.
so what we do is we go to the next level of understanding that though we have reached 5.3 million people, has it made an impact or change
Right.
in the
That's
lives
the
of
question.
people? So for example, we ask ourselves, has there been a change in the household level income of my work or my project's work or my organization's work? Has there been a change in the family's income? Suppose we are supporting farmers with certain technology or some kind of support. Has it changed their income every month, the kind of money they used to earn? Has there been any improvement or change? For example, we work around women's empowerment, as I said, about factory, RMG sector.
Right.
So we measure whether actually it is making a change or not. For example, does this training really help women to take up leadership roles or not? So we measure over a period of time whether there's how many women have gone into leadership roles, for
Right.
example.
How many? Is there any number? How many women promoted or got up to the leadership role?
Yes, for example, we trained about 500 women, and the last meeting I had, about 39 of them had actually gone into leadership or promotion, leadership roles, like a floor supervisor, for example. That's a huge change in their lives.
Right.
So things like that. For example, also when we work with the government systems or local institution, we see what kind of changes happened in the way they are functioning on the ground. So we always try not to look at numbers alone. That tells us a scale, but we look at what impact or change has happened, which is real and is really benefiting the people. Those kind of things are we measure.
Right. Fantastic. CARE does so many works, not only in Bangladesh, but across, I think, around 100 countries.
120 countries.
120 countries. So CARE needs a lot of money. So what are the CARE's sources of funds?
CARE sources of fund primarily is different institutional funding. For example, different governments across the world. For example, if I say US government or UK government or different European governments. So one major source is different governments also invest in projects or activities in a particular country because of the interest in that country. For example, you will find nowadays we are talking about aid coming in, but sometimes some of these countries also link aid with trade. So what trade interest a particular country has in a particular country, like a recipient country, you'll find the way the kind of aid also is determined. So one is definitely one government or the respective government sources. Another major part is also there are a lot of private donors.
Yes.
And there are high net worth individuals, there are billionaires who also donate for philanthropy. So that is one aspect of where we get the funding from. The other one is also we have recently engaged with the private sector a lot, but private sector engagement with CARE has been also quite old. It's not something new. Different. So we have a chunk of funding which also comes from private sector companies who have certain, call it CSR or kind of philanthropy, kind of trying to give it back to the society, as it is called. So they also have a substantial kind of a funding or donation to organizations like us.
So do Bangladeshi companies or rich people donate to CARE Bangladesh?
No, it happens globally, internationally. So for example, if we get funding if I talk about Bangladesh, it is primarily institutional funding. For example, different governments through their bilateral agreements who are in Bangladesh, they provide the funding. Number two is institutional funding, for example, the World Bank or other banks which actually provide the money through the government system sometimes. And also there are a large number of private sector which are global companies, not local companies.
Not local companies.
But we are engaging with the local companies in different ways for certain kind of projects which we have initiated. So local companies sometimes have these skills and technology which are very essential. So we engage with some of those local companies, but funding primarily comes from large global private sector companies.
Yes, got it. So global aid is shrinking, especially US aid. We know that US, is the largest donor in different activities globally, but we have seen last year that after Trump became president second time, he drastically cut US aid funds. So Care Bangladesh, is it feeling this US move to cut the fund?
See, it's like this. Funding comes from different sources, and the reason why globally or in this country the UK aid cut was felt because was a large dependency on that particular aid. So if you look at the whole global kind of a way the aid works, the major chunk was from the US government, which is a fact. So now pulling that out definitely caused impact in different ways. Projects shut down, communities were impacted, even small local organizations, NGOs who had some projects, they were also impacted. They had to let go a lot of staff, and they had to also shut down some offices. So things were there. So the reason is the dependency was so huge, so the impact was felt.
But so has Care, cut any jobs, or any program has been, cancelled because of, US aid fund cut?
Yes, like other countries, also in Bangladesh, not only Care, but all the projects which were funded by USAID, because USAID shut down.
Right.
So linked to that, all that projects which were funded by USAID also had to be closed. So,
so how Care is surviving? What is the model
But I want to just add here, though USAID is shut, but US government as an entity is still providing support across the globe in very many ways. For example, funding certain humanitarian life-saving work across the globe, the US government still helps. So it's not like the US government has stopped funding. The USAID arm has stopped functioning, but the US government as a funding kind of instrument is still providing support in many parts of the world, which are essential as per the new kind of policy.
Right.
As Care, to answer your other question, we do depend on other institutional funders or donors as well. For example, as I said, there are other governments who are interested in funding this kind of work which we do. There are private sector companies who are interested in the work which we do. So we're getting a lot of this funding currently from all these different institutional fundings, from private sector funding for our work in Bangladesh.
So how do you raise this money from, say, UK or other countries or any institutions? So is it that like you prepare a program and then sell it to the, probable donors?
Good question. There are two ways of doing it. Yeah. One is solicitation, one is unsolicitation. So on solicitation, what happens, most of these donors actually are interested in funding a program in a particular country. For example, they're interested in Bangladesh. So they release the kind of quote or bids asking for NGOs like us to bid for those projects. So that is one, which is already kind of under the plan of allocation, it's already there. The other kind of approach is that there is no such request for proposals or bids, but we sometimes understand what is the context, what are the issues going in the country, and what difference we can make through our work. So we sometimes get together as few organizations together in a partnership, maybe with a private sector company or with a national level or local NGO. understand if together we can make a difference. So sometimes we get these ideas and then pitch it to different probable or possible funders. It may be a foreign mission, it can be an institutional donor, it can be private sector
It can be Gates Foundation.
Yes, can
or
be any foundation as well.
Right, got it. So, Mr. Das, Bangladesh's economy has developed over the years. We have seen, per capita income, purchasing power, and all these indicators have improved significantly. But interestingly, poverty also has gone down, from around 50% in early 2000 to 18%. But interestingly, in 25, it has again gone up to 21%. And also, inequality is rising in Bangladesh. And as CARE works with the marginalized people and in rural areas, so what is your observation? Why is poverty is rising and inequality is rising in Bangladesh? And what is the way out to address these issues?
The interesting question. I think Bangladesh is entering a very what I call a transition phase. If you look at the past decades, the country has benefited hugely from the growth, the development growth. If you see, the RMG sector, for example, one of the top garment manufacturers in the world, remittances, agriculture, and a lot of revolution in agriculture was. So relatively, if you see, the macroeconomic condition has been very stable in the country.
Right, between 2010 and 2019, this decade.
So that actually growth has helped millions of people out of poverty. Millions of people have gone out of poverty. But the growth is slow and the cost of living is high because of inflation. For example, cost of living has gone up. If you look at poor families in a rural setup, now what happens is when cost goes up, they're not able to cope. So it's not adjusting anymore. What they do is they get into a negative coping mechanism, like they pull children out of school, for example, and especially the girls are the first one who are hit. They start eating less. They compromise on so many other things that it impacts their whole not only their complete family health and conditions. So there is no kind of a silver bullet saying that we can end poverty. But what is important to understand is the poverty comes back because we are not linking the systems, not creating a resilient system which can withstand for example, let's say 1 million people are out of poverty today. Now it requires one cyclone or one major health issue to pull them back into poverty. Just one episode is enough, which means the kind of work which has been done is kind of episodic, kind of we have fixed it very temporarily. So what we need to understand is we need to bring in an element of complete system level resiliency, so that people are able to cope with the situation when there is for example, there is a climatic change, so there are flooding, there is cyclone happening. People are resilient so that they come back to normalcy. So this has
to have to come back, and
so this has to happen much before the disaster strikes. You can't build resilience after the disaster has struck. Resilience building is done much before, which means we have to work with the understanding the markets, how people can be linked to market, how livelihoods can be linked to market. For example, if I can give an example that we provide saline in the saline infested area in the coastal regions. We provide salt, saline tolerant or heat tolerant or flood tolerant kind of crops. Now that is one layer of kind of support which we give. What is important to understand is how will that continue over a period of time? Are the systems taking over? Are the people building?
So government has to do it, right?
I think government alone is not a vehicle of development. I think it requires the whole what I call the ecosystem approach. So I would say government can take it to scale. But some of these innovations or new
Right.
techniques can come from the private sector, can come from the NGOs. So I see a kind of a role where all these entities can play a role in these countries' development. So once we have a system which is resilient, I think then only we can think that okay, we can manage uh, poverty, in a better way. Otherwise, what will happen every now and then you push some people out of poverty. The next year, once season of cyclone puts millions again
Or
back
like what
into.
has happened this time in our areas in Greater Sylhet,
Yeah.
crops lost, and many farmers maybe gone back to the poverty level. So, Mr. Das, what I have seen care puts women and girls at the center of their many activities. So, what is the biggest barrier you are seeing in Bangladesh, especially with women's empowerment, their rights, education, and everything?
I think the greatest challenge is still the inequality which exists. It's deep rooted
Between men
in
and women.
men and women. So this often is a social inequality which is so deep that it's very difficult to kind of change
So,
it.
for example, you can some examples what kind of inequality, striking points.
Striking, I'll tell you something. For example, I said about poverty.
Yeah.
And I was saying that about poverty, you need to actually have a model which will evolve towards more resilience and system thinking, and not like a what do you call it, kind of a project activity, one-time project activity. If you look at that, whenever poverty strikes, let's imagine a rural community,
Right.
and first thing which happens is, as I said, children are pulled out of school. And oftentimes in this region I have seen that girls are the ones which are pulled out, not the boys.
Right.
So you see that is kind of because the mindset is the boys can actually learn and get jobs, but the girls cannot. Maybe they should come and better help in the household work.
So, what do you think? Why this mindset?
I think it's a historical thing. It's a deep mindset which has been existing since ages. That we have defined roles that boys can do this and girls can do this, and it's a bit of carried over a period of time. More kind of paternalistic kind of attitude towards the way we see. But if you see in
But
Bangladesh,
is it in Bangladesh only, or across South Asia
no,
or
across
other countries?
across. It's not only Bangladesh. So, but if you see, men and women are equally capable. If you see that, and in Bangladesh, actually, women have actually repeatedly demonstrated that for example, the R&D sector, extraordinary leadership,
Yeah.
extraordinary resilience. They have proved. Even if you go to the coastal areas where women are taking up this climate adaptation work, exceptional leadership. If you see that, so this mindset has to change, that only men can do this and women cannot.
Right, you have rightly said, because we have seen when the results of secondary or higher secondary school results have come out, we see the top scorer basically girls.
Yes.
They are beating boys for many years,
Yes.
but later we see that they are not in the leadership role or in business or anywhere.
Yeah, I think there is also disparity in kind of salaries in many companies. We see that there's a disparity in the kind of compensation or salary they give to women than to men.
Right.
Though they come from have the same set of skills, their same academic excellence, but when it comes to job, they are kind of treated in a different way. So it's a deep-seated kind of ailment, I would say, in the society, which needs to be countered and continuously kind of challenged.
So tell us something about the climate change, its implications, and as Bangladesh is, quite often said to be one of the, most victims of climate changes. So, what is CARE doing in climate adaptation, or any kind of program CARE is running on these climate issues?
Yes, I think we have been doing a lot around climate change and adaptation. So we are again, as I said that earlier, that we are having an ecosystem approach. So, for example, when we look at climate, we look at climate in all its totality. For example, we look at climate related hazards or episodes. We look at preparedness. We look at early warning system, for example, when we talk
There is
about
very
cyclone and
effective
flood.
early warning system, right?
We talk about adaptation, local level adaptation. How can we use local skills and knowledge to adapt to certain climate changes? Where we look at for example, we got forecasting, early warning. So the entire spectrum of that we look at in terms of our work around humanitarian response and climatic related kind of challenges. But the challenge remains where we have adaptive systems which are more traditional in nature, and the climate changes around the world is happening at a much more faster pace. If you look at the way the global warming kind of challenge, if you see weather conditions, flash floods are happening where you have never seen before.
Yes.
Rains are happening where you have never seen before.
Heat
and
wave.
untimely rains, heat waves. If you see, the whole world is actually struggling with the kind of pace the climate has changed and is impacting people who are actually at the lowest bottom of the pyramid.
So, do you think Bangladesh is not, understand the scale of, climate changes or its impacts? Do you think so? Bangladesh
I
is
think,
not very aware of that implications?
I will not say that. I'll rather say that Bangladesh has been a pioneer or a leader in this space of climate adaptation.
Oh,
I mean, the
fantastic.
kind of models and modeling which Bangladesh has shown to the world is remarkable. So, what is important to understand that the kind of projects we do or action we do is very localized. Like it's very easy to do pilots. We call it pilots.
Yeah, pilot.
So pilots are very micro,
Yes.
very
Very narrow
limited,
scale,
very
huh?
narrow scale, very time limited kind of activity. So what we are doing is we are creating some excellence. We call it islands of excellence.
Okay.
But we are not saying what you call it's replication. So we need an ocean of replication. So what we need to see that these kind of adaptation are taken at scale across the country and is part of the institution, part of the system. Unless we get out of the mindset of doing small projects here and there, we will not be able to counter any of these challenges of nature. If you see the example of Singapore as a country,
Yeah. We have to be short because we're running out of
they're
time.
thinking 10 years ahead about the governance, about how they want to counter certain issues, challenges. They think 10 years in advance. But we, as a country, we need to also be planning in such a way that we have long-term, much more system-level resiliency kind of work, which we should be doing.
Yes, Mr. Das. CARE, works closely with the government, and you have seen them, from maybe also make suggestions to policy making and all. So, what do you think? Where actually these NGOs like CARE, or there are many NGOs in Bangladesh. Why these NGOs are what do you say, a necessity for Bangladesh? Is it that government fails to fill up these gaps or the demands? Is that a reason that INGOs or local NGOs are here to fill in that gaps?
No, I think the situation is slightly different like this. I would say that we have very strong national policies, government policies. If you look at even the policies around which are leaves a lot of South Asian countries behind in terms of how robust, how strong they are. And, for example, the National Adaptation Plan, if you call it, and other things, you see it's much more forward thinking. What probably it lacks is not the intent, is the lack of the outreach, the reaching. For example, we are not able to reach the last mile. So implementation issues, for example.
Okay, that's a big problem in Bangladesh.
So if you look at the policies, they're very strong, robust. But how do you articulate that? How do you implement that? How do you operationalize that? Is something which need to be taken seriously. And how the last mile, the linking with the local institution or the grassroots, how do we link, engage them in the whole process? So I think more of a implementation challenge rather than a policy level challenge for this.
Yes. So, Mr. Das, one question about Rohingya refugees. What does CARE do with them, especially, after the fund cut from the USA? That's I think a big blow to the, Bangladesh. So, what about the, Rohingya refugees? How CARE is involved with them? Is there any involvement actually?
CARE has been working with the Rohingya refugees since the beginning of the influx in 2017.
Okay.
So we have been providing all kinds of support, starting from all the camps which have been set up. CARE has taken leadership role in coordination of the camp activities in the past. We have provided water and sanitation facilities. We are still providing them, drinking water to people, toilets, hygiene, promotions. We have been playing a major role in shelter construction of those houses, individual houses, community houses. We provide a very interesting aspect, which is, if you are aware of that, the way the houses are structured on the hill slopes.
Right.
It's very dangerous. Like, in rainy season, there's a lot of landslides happen.
Right.
So slope stabilization as a part of the disaster risk reduction component of our work, we provides plantation and other stabilization effort on the slope so that there's no erosion of soil. We have done a lot around improving the local habitat inside the camp so that it becomes a bit habitable, because it becomes very difficult for people to live and move about. Beyond that, also we have worked a lot around prevention of gender-based violence, which is a major issue in the camp. So we have worked around creating awareness around that, making sure those cases are reported and taken up, and their proper referral methods are there, and action is being taken. So if you look at the whole spectrum of the response, we have worked in the Rohingya camp since the very beginning. But yeah, the situation is very critical now with the funding cut, and with donor fatigue, which is happening.
Right.
And so it's actually quite natural, I would say.
So what is your suggestion to Bangladesh, how they can, because we don't see anytime soon that Rohingyas will go back to their country. So maybe Bangladesh has to struggle, and especially amid this aid cut. So what is actually your suggestion? What Bangladesh should do to handle these issues? Because we have to sensitize international stakeholders.
See, I think my personal view is that it's a political. The problem is of a political nature, which has humanitarian consequences, but we are treating it with a humanitarian angle. We have completely missed the political or diplomatic angle. I think what is important for us is we need stronger diplomatic engagement, much more strong regional cooperation, and long-term thinking if we want this to be resolved. Because you cannot, there's more than 1 million people, yes, and the government is stretched, for the last 9 years. The government has been extremely gracious, kind of providing all the support, which has
right.
It's not easy.
Bangladesh being a poor country,
and the local communities, if you see the host communities, if you look at Ukhia and Teknaf, the vulnerable people are actually have the same needs as the Rohingya refugees. It's not to kind of undermine the refugees' need, but also if you look at local people, they are also in the same vulnerability category.
Yes.
So to be fair, I would see that more of these, we are missing the more diplomatic angle of the issue and trying to address it as a humanitarian problem. But the humanitarian problem is a consequence of the diplomatic or the political problem.
Right.
So we need to hit at the root of solving it in a more diplomatic way, for which we will not be struggling on the humanitarian front.
Right, Bangladesh has to boost its diplomacy. Mr. Das, last question. Many critics often say that most of NGOs funds go to administration or overhead cost. How do you say about this?
I would say, frame it differently. When we say administrative costs, it's very important to understand what includes in the administrative cost. When we get a donor money, where we are accountable not to the only donor, we are also accountable to the community we serve.
Yes.
So we need to be transparent. We need to see that every dollar which we get goes to the right person and the people benefit out of it. So accountability is absolutely critical for us. 100% accountability, 100% transparency, to make sure that the money trail is traced right to the people.
And transparent.
So for that, we need tremendous finance oversight. We need strong monitoring systems. We need very strong audit and accounting system. We definitely need strong safeguarding systems. So if we look at all that, the kind of administrative cost which we charge for all that is very, very small, because it's a very highly technical expertise of providing all this kind of support, because finally what is important for us is development work must be accountable both financially and ethically. So for that, the administrative cost which we charge goes to kind of meet these kind of needs. If you are not fitting these kind of the high quality which is needed of these parameters of ethicality or transparency or the kind of accountability, we will eventually lose out in the kind of providing future support. For example, people who are getting the support now will not get it,
Right.
because the funders or donors who are giving the money are very high on those parameters. So the expectation is very high. So for that, there may be a bit of a narrative those who are sitting outside to understand the
Right.
administrative, but if you look at NGOs actually take a very, very small cost of the kind of transparency and oversight they bring into projects. It's a very high standard.
Got it. Especially INGO, International
Yes.
NGO. So, Mr. Das, thank you so much for being with the TBS.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much. দর্শক, আমরা আলোচনা করলাম এবং আপনাদের সাথে বিস্তারিত শেয়ার করলাম। এটা শুধু কেয়ার বাংলাদেশে তাদের অ্যাক্টিভিটিস সেটা না, এবং বাংলাদেশের ক্লাইমেট চেঞ্জ, অ্যাডাপ্টেশন, মিটিগেশন এবং আসলে রোহিঙ্গা ইস্যু নিয়ে আলোচনা করলাম, এবং বাংলাদেশ সরকারের আসলে এই ব্যাপারে কি করা উচিত সে ব্যাপারেও মিস্টার দাস কিছু পরামর্শ দিয়েছেন। সো দর্শক, আমরা বিস্তারিত আলোচনা করলাম, আপনাদের সামনে তুলে ধরলাম। আমাদের আলোচনা ভালো লাগলে লাইক করবেন, শেয়ার করবেন। আপনাদের সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ।